Church of England care home claims that the church authorities have failed to properly launch a review of the case, despite promising to start more than a year ago.
Well, scores of teenage girls were given tranquilizers and antidepressants at Kendall House in Gravesend in the 1970s and 80s. At least 10 women fear the potentially dangerous medication caused birth defects to their children. Our special correspondent Colin Campbell has the story.
Kendall House in Gravesend, run by the Church of England, it was meant to be a safe haven for teenagers. Instead, in the 70s and 80s, scores of girls were given massive doses of drugs, including tranquilizers, to keep them quiet. In January, the Bishop of Rochester announced there'd be a review of what went on, but this victim fears it stalled.
I feel that they're not taking it seriously, and we have basically been pushed and shoved on a pile and left. And that's how I feel. You know, 1 year and 1 month is not acceptable length of time.
Teresa Cooper was placed in the home in 1981. Over a period of 32 months, she was given medication more than 1,000 times. Cocktails of 11 different powerful and potentially dangerous drugs. She's one of 10 who attended Kendall House, who after being forcibly drugged, had children with birth defects. Although the church has never admitted liability, in 2010, Teresa received an out-of-court settlement from the church. In 2014, she was privately informed there'd be a review into Kendall House, but it took a further 4 months before the Bishop of Rochester announced that a review would actually go ahead.
I would have expected them to have set the terms of reference, to appointed a chairman, and to set out how the panel was going to do its work, where they were going to get their evidence from. And that should have been done months ago, and the victim should have been kept informed all the way through as well. Instead, we've had complete silence.
Teresa is highly critical of the lack of contact she says she's received from the church.
I was ignored by the government, I was ignored by everybody. So when you're going through this process, the worst thing you can do to a survivor who's been ignored that bad is to ignore them all over again. Because what it does is it takes you back to the place that they're supposed to be investigating, and they have emotionally taken me back to Kendall House.
In a statement, the Diocese of Rochester says the Bishop of Rochester's genuine concern is that any review be conducted thoroughly and properly rather than in haste. It says in personal apology letters the bishops encourage former residents to participate in the review, and adds that it will not be helpful for the bishop to speculate on the outcome of the review or to preempt it. Serious concerns about forced drug use at Kendall House were raised 35 years ago. The doctor responsible is now dead, but this survivor says until her questions are answered, her life is on hold.
Well, Colin joins us now from the Diocese of Rochester, which was responsible for Kendall House. Colin, you've learnt that the church wanted Teresa to be heavily involved in the review process.
Yes, Teresa Cooper met with church officials in September last year to discuss the Kendall House review. Now, minutes of the meeting which we've obtained appear to show that the church was acknowledging at the time that Teresa would play an important role, let's say, within the review process. The minutes say that she would be feeding information into the review. Now, despite this, Teresa feels as if she has now been blocked from taking part in the review by the church. She says that she is deeply concerned. She fears that without her input, the review will fail, and that crucial evidence that she has unearthed, painstakingly unearthed over the last 30 years, will not be considered or examined by the review.
OK, Colin, thank you.
In a moment, the sinking of HMS Hyde